Payton Thorne, top 5 passer in the SEC.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. We're dapping it up with the Darrell Dapprich on this Friday edition of the show. He, of course, the Montgomery radio legend. We'll give our predictions, score predictions and thoughts on Auburn, Georgia to wrap up the show today. And also we'll talk about Deuce Knight, the impact he's going to have, that big flip, of course, from Notre Dame. But let's start things off talking about Payton Thorne because he's going to be a big part of this moving forward. He's 5th in the SEC in passing yards, Darrell. And I mean, we begged for this going into the season. And also when you add the context that he missed a game and a half because of his, him getting benched, it's just kind of, I don't know, maybe we should be more specific with what we hope for going into the season, because we would have killed to have a top 5 passer in the SEC.
It's amazing how you get what you wish for and it just doesn't play out that way. So yeah. Specifically, I think me and you were happy if he'd get in the top 8. Remember, we talked about that. If he can just get in the top 8,
sure.
He's top 5 now, and I want to make sure people understand the projection of he should be top 3. This isn't pie in the sky. If he plays against New Mexico and the other half of Arkansas, if he just does what he's been doing all year, there may be more interceptions, but there's probably another 350 yards there, which gets him in the top 3. I mean, and the touchdowns are numerous. They're pretty good. He's amongst the touchdown leaders. The bugaboo has been the interceptions. I get it. And so, but again, here we are projecting at the beginning of the year, if he can only do this and if he can only do that. Well, he's done that and more. And Auburn's still 2-3 and very unhappy, and he's much maligned. And that's, again, without a game and a half. And one of those games, let's be honest, New Mexico, he would have lit up. I mean, Hank Brown lit him up, so Payton Thorne would have lit him up. So where would we be right now? We'd be with Payton Thorne at 3rd in the conference with passing, maybe a couple more picks. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know if he'd have thrown an interception against New Mexico or not, but definitely 3 or 4 more touchdowns, conservatively. I mean, his QBR would be significantly. I mean, he'd be on pace to have a 3,000-yard passing season, which is exactly what we begged for.
Yeah, it doesn't feel that way because Auburn's losing, and he's thrown 6 interceptions on the season, which leads the SEC, unfortunately. But just for context, and this is new for us, it's new for Auburn fans, it's new for Auburn football to have a quarterback that is throwing it this much. And sadly, this is part of it. You're going to turn it over more the more you throw it, but Auburn does need to fix that. I mean, he's thrown 102 passes and 6 of them have been picked. That's not a good ratio. That's not a good ratio. And so you don't want to turn the ball over 6% of the time every time the ball leaves your hand. That's not great. That's not great. You look at Garrett Nussmeier, who's thrown it for LSU. He's thrown it more than anybody else at 198 attempts this year, 4 picks. That's only 2 less than Payton, you might say, but he's thrown the ball almost 100 more times. So you got to fix that ratio for sure. But the production, it is there. And it goes back to the what if. What if Auburn could just take a little bit better care of the football? This offense could be actually pretty good.
Well, he's thrown 9 or 10 touchdown passes too?
10.
Okay, so it's 10-6, and the ratio you want is 4-1. That's always been the standard from touchdown passes to interceptions. So if Payton Thorne had thrown 3 interceptions or 4 interceptions, that's still a little bit below that ratio. But I think you could live if you're an Auburn fan and you said he's thrown 10. He's thrown. Well, let's just say he played those games. He's had 12 touchdown passes, 4 or 5 interceptions, and 1,500 yards. You'd take that all. That's numbers that haven't been seen for a while from a projection standpoint. The problem is he's got 2 or 3 more interceptions than he should, and it's when the interceptions occur. It's the time of the game, the moment. That's where some of these guys, Zach, get interceptions when they're at the 50-yard line before the half, and they throw it up for grabs, and the guy picks it off, and it counts as an interception, but it's a little bit, there should be an asterisk.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt your chances.
Doesn't hurt your chances
winning the football game. Right.
Right. His are coming at inopportune times, crucial times. So that's the difference. That's why it feels different.
Pick six, the two against Cal, where he had two different chances to win the football game. Yeah, I mean these haven't been well-timed picks, if there is even such a thing.
And that's why it feels different. That's why it doesn't feel like he's on pace to have 3,000 yards and, oh, by the way, 20 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he just did. We're not halfway through the year. You got to figure he'll play the last 7 games, and he's got 10 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. What if he had 12 touchdowns because he played against New Mexico, or 13 touchdowns? He'd be on pace to have 24 touchdowns. Yeah. These are all projections, but you've got a sample size of 5 games.
Right.
It's amazing that we're talking about this because it just doesn't feel that way. It does not feel like we have a quarterback on this roster that could end up top 3 or 4 in the conference. Now, that QBR takes into consideration touchdown interception ratio, and that's what's bringing him down a little bit. But if he just cleaned that up a little bit, threw for 2 or 3 more TDs and 2 or 3 less picks,
yeah,
he'd be amongst the top 15 in the country. I went back and looked at where that would put him, projecting it. So I know if and buts, candies, nuts, all that kind of stuff, but still.
But I think this lines up with, and Auburn fans don't want to hear this, and I don't like saying it, but I am going to say it because I do believe it to be accurate. And Hugh Freeze has said it. Like, it does feel like they're close. It does feel like they're close when you look at the statistical output of what this offense is doing. It is effective. They just can't turn the football over. Yes, taking care of the football is crucial. 100%. And unfortunately, this team has learned that the hard way this season. But to act like this offense is anemic is incorrect, and that's the way it's being discussed. Payton Thorne is on pace with his 10 touchdowns already. I mean, I think he doubles that. I don't think it's crazy to say that he doubles that. Chris Todd has the second most touchdown passes for an Auburn quarterback in a season with 22 in 2009. Cam's Heisman year in 2010. He has 30 touchdowns. There's a solid chance that Payton Thorne has the second best scoring season in Auburn quarterback history with what he's doing.
It's just amazing. That's why we decided to talk about it, is because you would never have expected that. And yet at the end of the day, that might be exactly where he ends up. And again, I'll keep saying the caveat to it, and that's without 6 quarters of football. Now, let me just say this. I keep saying that. If he plays against New Mexico and they get off to a fast start, he doesn't play the whole game anyway. He comes out for Hank Brown. So to say a game and a half, let's just say a game, because he probably sits in the second half if they come out and get a big lead on New Mexico and jump out. And you would have wanted to get Hank Brown a lot of reps. So he probably would have played a half against New Mexico, a half more against Arkansas. But again, and it also speaks to the approach that Hugh Freeze had about providing him with weapons.
Yeah, I mean, it's worked.
Because he doesn't get these. He does not have these kind of numbers without Cam Coleman, KLS, some of those guys that have stepped, Malcolm Simmons that have stepped up.
So he started a full game. He started every game last year. He technically didn't start Ole Miss. Robbie was in there to start the game, but he started a full season, and then what he's done so far this year. Do you know where he is among all quarterbacks ever in passing yards already?
At Auburn?
Yeah.
8th.
Just Auburn quarterbacks.
8th.
No, he's not. He's 17th. He's 17th with just shy of 2,800 yards. But the touchdown ones is interesting. He's 13th in touchdowns.
He'll end up top 5, maybe, right? Top 6, I think. If he gets.
So he's at 26, right? If we think he gets 10 to 14 more, Bo Nix is 5th with 39. So that puts you around there, which is. It's why it's just the way we're talking about the guys. Like, there's no production, and that's just not the case. It's just not the case. So we'll see.
Numbers don't lie.
We'll see. All right, so that's Auburn's current quarterback. Their future quarterback, Deuce Knight, flips from Notre Dame to the Auburn Tigers, and man, he's going to have an impact. And we could see that impact as early as this weekend. Darrell, let's jump into that in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Darrell, can you imagine wagering anywhere than with our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook?
That free money that they give you, that
free money.
You guys talk about what's better than free. Well, they prove it. They give you that opportunity.
Yeah, you can get started with $200 right now in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. And look, the thing that's so great about FanDuel is like when a game is going on, you want to do some live betting, or if you know, hey, if you believe in a team more in the second half, like you can check out the latest stats and view live play-by-play and all this stuff on the same page where you place your bets. So be sure to check that out over at FanDuel.com/lockedon. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends at Home Field. Home Field Apparel. Darrell, you have bought so much stuff from Home Field Apparel of different schools. I've bought several Auburn things from Home Field Apparel. In fact, I don't get to wear them as much as I would like because my wife steals all of my Home Field Apparel Auburn shirts, but that's okay. That's okay. They've got the vintage designs, and it's, there's nothing else like it. There's nothing else like it all at homefieldapparel.com.
All their stuff's great, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you my favorite Home Field Apparel item. It's a retro Bo Jackson baseball jersey from 1984.
It's the light blue one?
The light blue one.
Baby blue.
The Auburn script. And
yep, I know what you're talking about.
Yes, it's
good looking.
I love it. It's my favorite.
It's good looking. All right, so make sure you're ready for the season, whether it's football, basketball, over at homefieldapparel.com. Use our promo code WAREAGLE24. Darrell Dapprich with me. This is Locked on Auburn. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single day. Deuce Knight flips from Notre Dame to Auburn, gives Auburn the third-ranked recruiting class according to 247. On3 has them still at the fourth-ranked recruiting class. But I thought everything was falling apart. I didn't think Auburn could keep this recruiting class together. That's what everybody's saying. Look, Deuce Knight not only flipping, it's great that Auburn gets their quarterback. And I said this yesterday with Jake Crane. Like it's a little amazing to me that they had this class put together anyway without their quarterback. To me, this solidifies it, Darrell. And I think these upcoming guys that we've been talking about for a long time, Usman Chroma, who's apparently committing this weekend, I think you're going to see Deuce Knight have an impact on that. But Naeem Offord, could he flip from Ohio State to Auburn in the coming months? We'll see. Caleb Cunningham, the top player in the state of Mississippi, the five-star receiver that's committed to Alabama. I'm a little on him, but it seems like he and Deuce get along, so we'll see. Andrew Babalola, the five-star offensive tackle. That one seems interesting. It's either going to be Auburn or Michigan there. He's going to have an impact on how this class finishes.
Let me give you three other receiver names to watch very closely that I think will have more of an impact than even Cunningham. There's a kid named Tyron Taylor at Georgia that's a four-star that's back in the mix. Auburn feels good with him as far as potentially flipping him. I know it's tough to get players away from Georgia, but let's just say Auburn's in it. Of course, your boy Sam Turner, right, that you like a lot.
Guy. Yep.
Now that there's a quarterback in the class, and then four names, two others. Dylan Upshaw was back on campus, the Miami commit, and C.J. Wiley. I mean, look, that's a lot of quantity.
Wiley's the FSU commit?
Correct. And that's a lot of quantity. So if those four receivers I just mentioned, if you could just flip two, you're right good. Where you need to be in your receiving class.
You're good.
And I think they're all in play. Let's put it that way. And then there's another corner. I think I can't think of his name, but Deuce Knight was FaceTiming or talking to him last night, trying to four-star cornerback as another kid that he was real, influential. So we talked about, they like him. This class loves him. He really kind of is part of that. This is this bond, this chemistry with this group. Right. A lot of these other recruits. That's only going to pay dividends. I think you're going to see a ripple effect of that because of how much these kids like and want to play with him. And Alvin Henderson too. Alvin Henderson's that kind of kid that just, man, he's a draw. He gets people to come and want to be around him and all that. So, man, the premature conversation of the demise of Auburn recruiting was just that, premature.
Yeah, I think so.
It didn't come to fruition. And again, for the amount of people that are fans of an undefeated football team to be so concerned and jacked up and worried and making and don't say you're not, because you won't comment. You don't comment on tweets and in here and all that. If you're not, you would care less. You wouldn't comment. You're 5-0, Auburn's 2-3, and yet there's this so much talk and concerning and having to comment on stuff. Just amazing that would go on.
That's a good point. You know who I would be concerned about if I was undefeated? If Auburn was undefeated?
Auburn.
Because can we do this in Athens this weekend? That's what the talk would be about.
I mean that's. But again, to be so worried about what's going on the east side of the state when you're 5-0 and the best college football team in the land, allegedly, and your little brother is 2-3, and you're making comments about their recruiting class, it's a little bit too much. Protesting too much, as Shakespeare would say, right?
It's a little strange, no question about it. No question about it. Hey, so Chroma, the running back, Auburn wants him to be the number 2 running back in this class. He and Alvin Henderson kind of be that 1-2 punch of the future. What's your gut reaction with this? I mean, it sounds like Georgia's made a late push. I was worried about FSU for a long time, and it seems like Georgia's really kind of made him a priority late in the process. My gut says Georgia on this one, Darrell, but oh my goodness, I hope I'm wrong.
Well, it was a 2-horse race up until about 2 weeks ago, and when it was, I was all Auburn. I thought Chroma was going to choose Auburn over Florida State. It wouldn't even be close. Georgia got in it late, and when they got in it late, that flipped all the crystal balls and the predictions to Georgia. Well, now Auburn's back in the picture this week with some things that they felt like I think they knew they needed to do. They knew what the standard was. They knew, what the get was, and so now they're back in it. And right now, to me, I can't lean one way or the other. I say it's truly 50-50. I would not be shocked Saturday if he picked Georgia, and I would not be shocked if he picked Auburn. I know that's a cowardly way to say it. I just think if you'd asked me this last weekend, I'd say 75-25 Georgia. I think Auburn's closed the gap in the last 2 or 3 days and has a chance.
I mean, is it intel that has made you kind of even it out, or is it just kind of a gut feeling or wishful thinking? Like, what do you think has happened to make it go from 75-25 Georgia to a true 50-50?
I wouldn't move the bar that much if it was just a gut feeling.
25% is a lot.
Yeah, to be perfectly honest with you, that would be unfair and that would be reckless. There's just some stuff that I think the Auburn, people that are recruiting him and some of the people that are responsible for NIL and that kind of stuff that now are got back in the game.
Okay, so. Got it. Yeah, I mean, Chroma's been one of your main guys that you've wanted to be in his class for months at this point.
If he commits Saturday, I'm going to go out and go to home field and get a plain Auburn jersey and then put Chroma on the back.
I love that.
And wear it in the press box. You're not allowed to do that, but that would be funny, right?
Yeah, man, that would make some people mad if you did that, but I would laugh. That'd be so funny. That'd be hilarious. Yeah. People would throw a fit. Yeah, so we'll see. Deuce Knight is bigger than just Deuce Knight.
Yes.
And I think folks need to realize that. And I think most do. Let's jump into our predictions. I think Auburn keeps it close on Saturday. More on that in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time is the best place to buy tickets, whether it's for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, the comedy, the theater, whatever it might be. Game Time has you covered. Darrell and I both used Game Time exclusively when it comes to buying tickets.
Absolutely. I love how fast, spontaneous purchases are where Game Time really has its niche because they've got these last minute lightning deals. And if you're trying to make a spontaneous purchase, it's better. They took care of me with a refund issue with the canceled baseball game.
Pretty cool.
I bought tickets for my family to the Auburn La Monroe game. All my family's going to that. We're going to go, together. They'll go sit somewhere separate, obviously, but that's where I went. When I wanted 6 or 7 tickets for them, I went to Game Time.
That's where to go. Yeah, Game Time picks. It filters out the fluff to show you only the incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time filtering through and sorting through everything. Like you said, it's quick. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. Darrell, what time is it?
Game time!
All right, let's jump into our predictions. Auburn heads to Georgia. First time the Tigers leaving Jordan-Hare Stadium this year. Our friends at FanDuel set this line at 24.5. 24.5. Or is it 23? I'm checking that. Regardless, I would like 24.5 a little bit better. I'm not going to lie to you. I want to make sure I get this correct. 23.5. Glad I checked. I think Auburn covers the 23.5, Darrell. I think this game is close at halftime. I think it's going to be similar to Oklahoma. It may not be as close. Auburn may not be in the lead or something like that, but they may be down a score, down 10 points or something in the fourth quarter. And then I just see us I see us turning the football over because we don't have any level of composure whatsoever in the fourth quarter of football games. So to me, I think it's close. And then I think Auburn does just enough to cover this one.
I think this will be one of the few games that Auburn's played this year where they don't beat themselves. They don't make silly mistakes. They don't turn it over. But the team on the other side of the field is just better and beats you on their own without you having to do anything self-inflicted. Like Auburn will finally clean up all that self-inflicted crap, but Georgia's just better and will take care of business on their own, being better than you. I see like a 31-20 score. I do see Auburn keeping this within, 1-2 scores for a while. And then I just think Georgia defensively holds and just wins from. And I think this will be a game that statistically Auburn will be on the short end of the stick with.
Yeah. Just for the folks that use FanDuel, you can bet Auburn to be a first half winner at plus 680. Georgia started slow in virtually every game this year. And so I do kind of wonder, can Auburn get a lead? Is there any chance Auburn holds a lead at halftime? To me, I think that's going to be intriguing. Or do you think Georgia's just going to be no, we're going to finally put all this together. We're going to start fast.
Well, Georgia's definitely motivated because of obviously the loss to Alabama. And another reminder, it is their homecoming. Mm-hmm. And I can see a situation or scenario, what's doomed Auburn in Athens in years past are these quick starts. I mean, with Bo Nix, with Jarrett, whoever, Auburn got behind quick. At home, when Auburn plays them, is not the case. In fact, Auburn jumped out last year. So that's the one thing Auburn has to avoid is getting behind real early, real quick. Auburn, to win this game, like Hugh Freeze said, is going to have to play mistake-free football and hope that Georgia does not. I think Auburn's going to have to finally cause some turnovers that lead to scores directly or indirectly, and can't miss 27-yard field goals either. You can't. If you play Georgia and don't score from the one and miss chip shot field goals, then it could get ugly quick. So
FanDuel has Auburn's total points at 14.5.
Yeah, I think 20. I think they'll get to 20. I don't think Georgia's defense. Now, get it. Alabama's offense is elite.
Yeah.
But I don't think Georgia's defense is what it's been. It's still very, very good. But I with the way Auburn moves the ball and the way they're proficient and now having receivers and all that, I think Auburn can get to 20.
Yeah, weirdly, I don't think scoring points is going to be why Auburn loses. I think it's going to be untimely turnovers or just turnovers in general, or Georgia's offense just bullies our front seven. I'm concerned about that.
Yeah. The young kids are going to have to really step up and not be too big for the moment with their first game on the road.
Mm-hmm. Give me a player of the game. If Auburn does this, who steps up in your mind?
Cam Coleman.
Oh, I like that.
If he goes for a couple touchdowns and has a big game over the Georgia corners, kind of a coming out party on a national stage against a really good opponent. I mean, we know what he did against some lesser thans, but still, he has not. Look, nothing you've shown me on tape or that I've seen on tape on Cam Coleman impressed me more than what he did running down the Oklahoma linebacker and almost catching him in the end zone.
Oh, period. Interesting. That's a good take.
Period. He's made some fantastic catches. He's so a freak athletically. That showed me more the will to win. He wants to win so bad.
These young guys
shot out of a cannon and said, I will do what it takes. This joker ain't scored, and he barely scored. But he watched that film and how far he came on the field and closed. That was very impressive to me.
Yeah, no, these young guys want to win. I don't think there's any.
And they're used to winning.
Yeah.
And that's why you're going to see some things happen, in my opinion, in the locker room if losing keep happening with the older guys and the younger guys. Because the younger guys don't like losing. They're not accustomed to it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Auburn's locker room is filled with a bunch of older guys that are used to this, and it's that's hard to. That's culturally, I think that's something that's going to have to change for sure. And I love the Cam Coleman answer, because now as a defense, I think you have to pay more attention to Keandre Lambert-Smith because of what he's doing. I mean, statistically, is he third in receiving in the SEC? Fourth. He's fourth receiving in the SEC. 415 already on the season. So.
And again, I'm playing the what if game. Cam Coleman plays against New Mexico. He's probably top 10 in the SEC right now too.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Could you imagine Auburn?
Malcolm Simmons has more receiving yards than Cam Coleman does.
Yeah, he
would have had that going into the year.
If you end up having 3 receivers in the top 10 in receiving yards and only win 5 games, I would have said you are smoking. There's no way. Everything that we said had to happen happened, and then they still, because of the turnovers.
And I don't think that'll happen. I don't think they'll have 3 that finish that high. But if you would have told me that Payton Thorne has a chance to be Auburn's second most scoring quarterback in a single season, and Auburn has a 1,000-yard receiver in KLS, I would have been like, oh, we're 9-3.
And a 1,000-yard rusher in Jarquez Hunter.
Is he on pace for that?
I think you'll see him get more carries as the season wears on.
Thereby 437, so he's close.
He can. I mean, that's on pace to 1,000. You're not halfway through the year yet.
Yeah, he's 6th in the conference right now.
Yeah, and he'll get more carries. He'll get more carries as the season goes on.
I hope so. He's got to, right? He's got to. We'll see. I mean, anytime another fan base or somebody that covers another team reaches out to me, they're like, why is Jarquez not a bigger part of the offense? And I'm like, I would love to know the answer to that. I would love to know. So, Darrell, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Follow me on X, Dap6410, Instagram, Darrell Dap, Wednesdays, Fridays, and our reaction show that we do after football games on Saturday night. You can get me in the barn, thebarnauburn.com. Do a little writing there.
Yep. We'll go live right after the Auburn-Georgia game, and then also we'll drop a show Sunday morning. And be sure to subscribe, whether you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening on audio. Just subscribe and support the show. It helps out a ton. Until next time, this has been Locked On Auburn.